Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to Realty Success. I'm so excited today. Lots of good stuff going on. We are joined today by Aaron Brown, Angela Brown, and our very special guest, Ed Mathews with Clark Street Capital. He's going to talk to us today about the world of real estate investing. So we're so excited to dig in deep with that. If you have some questions, please share them with us. And we're going to go around the room and talk, let everybody introduce themselves. I am Brooke Bryant. I'm with Bryant Realty. I work in and around the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Love working with first-time home buyers, home sellers. Done a good bit of real estate investing with clients myself. And so I'm really excited about today's show. And as I said, we also have with us Angela Brown. Angela, want to say hello to everybody?
I do. I want to say hello to everyone and thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm Angela Brown. I'm the CEO of Savvy Cleaner, and we are a training company for house cleaners and maids. We're in 37 countries and 191 languages, and we will teach you how to clean your house. Now, the reason that I'm here today, and I'm super excited that I get to be a fly on the wall in today's conversation, is because my business does a lot of the move in, move out cleaning, which is really important to every single real estate transaction. And so I get to learn from the experts here on how we can best interact as house cleaners, how we can interact with the realtors that we're experiencing today. And today I'm super excited about our guest. So I'm going to throw it on over to you, Ed. Ed, tell us who you are and how you came into the real estate industry.
Hey, thanks, Angela. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Brooke, as well. And Aaron, I'm looking to talk with you as well. So I'm Ed Mathews. I'm the founder of Clark Street Capital. I'm as we were talking about earlier, before we started recording, I am a almost 25-year veteran of the technology world. I'm a marketing, sales, and operations guy by trade, and about 10, 12 years ago, started investing in real estate on the side, and it went really well. And we'll talk about that later, I guess. And then in 2018, I went full time, and we've been running hard ever since.
Great. Thanks so much, Ed. We're so excited to get to talk to you. And right now, we're going to hear from Aaron. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much. Realtor out of San Antonio, Texas, and host of the Realty Success Hub. So excited to have you on today, Ed. We look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, it's the real estate market. It's we've experienced a lot of changes in the past few years. So tell us how, Ed, how did you start getting involved in investing in real estate? How did that get going for you?
So I had come to the conclusion pretty far into my career that if I was going to create wealth so that I didn't have to work until I was 90, I was going to have to do it as a non-W-2 employee. And so in 2008, a very good friend of mine gave me a copy of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it shook me to my core. Completely changed the way I viewed the next 50 plus years of my life. And then I spent about 3 years getting over the fear of actually pulling the trigger on a real estate deal. I had a bit of a health scare in 2010. And so, that actually gave me the courage to, kind of shrug off the fear and uncertainty and dive right in head first. And I also had some help with a realtor who was like a dog on a bone and would not let me give up. So I can tell you that story later as well. And then, as far as, working in the business, either as a side hustle for the first 7+ years or, now full time for the last 5+, it's my life's passion. I'm a builder by trade. I love, creating something out of something that's pretty beat up or nothing for that matter. And it's very gratifying. It's also really interesting that I get to, provide homes for, hundreds of people throughout the state here. And, I think we do a really good job of helping them enjoy their lives, giving them a clean and safe place to live that's well appointed so they can be proud of where they live and And, having built a business around that, it's a lot of fun.
You made a comment about you waited for a couple of years, not waited, but it took you a couple of years to pull the
I waited.
trigger, and
Yeah.
there was a health scare. I'm curious about that, and what advice would you give to someone that is also in the same situation where there's a window of them not taking action yet? What is it that caused you to wait a couple of years, and then what would you do differently to do it all again?
So when I meet with, I mentor a lot of real estate investors and aspiring real estate investors. And, whenever I meet with them and I ask them, well, have you bought your first property yet? And most of them, 90+% of them say, no, not yet. And I said, okay, well, what's stopping you? And invariably it's typically one of three things. It's, I don't know where to find the deals. I don't know where to get the money, and I don't have time. Right. And when I start asking questions about whichever reason they have, it almost always boils down to some version of I'm afraid. And I totally get that, because I was that person 13 years ago. And so, it took I had a pulmonary embolism. I had an ankle surgery from an Achilles that I blew out while I was playing basketball. And I had an embolism that should have killed me and didn't. And when I woke up, I thought to myself, the things you think about when you're kind of confronting that is not regret. My thinking was I had two little girls and a beautiful wife who's amazing. And I thought, how is Patricia, my wife, going to handle, keeping these kids on the path and making sure they're okay and providing for them, without me here. And so I, within a month or two of recovering, I went headfirst into finding the deal that ultimately became the foundation of our business. And the reason that I call the business Clark Street is because the property we bought was on Clark Street in East Hartford, Connecticut.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that you took that downward moment and you turned it into your business, and then you honored it by naming your business after that. I just love that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, real estate can be scary. That's a huge undertaking. It's it's a lot more to it than just investing some money in the stock market. But as you said, it's really satisfying. Real estate provides homes for people. It helps others build their own wealth, and it's so much more gratifying than many other types of investments. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, it's amazing. I tell people, when somebody asks me, well, what do you do for a living? Right. Because real estate investors, this amorphous, thing that,
Right.
it could be anything. Right. And so, I tell them, I say, look, I buy crappy apartment buildings from landlords who aren't very good at their jobs. And we go in and we make them clean and safe immediately. We upgrade the common areas so the residents understand there's a new sheriff in town. We go to great lengths to repair the relationship with the residents who want to stay. The ones that don't, we help them move on and give them a good recommendation and then upgrade their units and bring those units up to market. And as people rotate through the building, we upgrade all of the units and then in most cases, the intent is to hold the building forever. So it's kind of a doing well by doing good kind of thing, right? In my mind. And because, the fact is that whether if you live in a Clark Street building, whether you're in a C-class building or a B-class or elsewhere, you're going to get the exact same service. You're going to get the exact same treatment. And that is, yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you very much. It's our pleasure to help. How can we be of service? Our job here is to make sure that they're, enjoying the home that they're building. So that's the do good part. The do well part is that, our residents vacancy is a very expensive cost in my world. And so when we take really good care of our residents, they stay a lot longer. They pay their rent on time mostly. They treat the building, very well because they've seen that we've gone to great pains to upgrade everything. And, it just creates a really great relationship. And they stay a lot longer. And so, the average tenancy in the state of Connecticut, last time I saw it, it was like 1.6, 1.7 months or 1.7 years, excuse me. And, our tenants stay just short of 4 years on average. And so that makes our properties and our business in general, way more profitable because I don't have to spend money on, turns. I don't have to spend money on lease ups. I don't have to, there's a lot of savings there, and that goes right to the bottom line and then right out to our investors. So it's a huge win for everybody.
When you talk about the systems, because you said you have the yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you. And it sounds like you have a very specific set of lingo that you use and respectability towards your tenants. How did you come about creating that kind of a system that then transcends all of the transactions that you do from tenant to tenant?
So I think it probably comes from my grandparents and parents. I was brought up real well. They did a good job. And so, if I don't know your name, I'm going to say yes, ma'am, or no, sir. Right. And, or yes, sir. And so, from a cultural perspective, one of the things that, when you join our company, one of the first things we talk about is our business philosophy and how we interact with each other, how we interact with our residents, how we interact with, our investors and our contractors and any other partners that we have. And, so that they understand, pretty much day one, what the expectation is, because, customer service, I've always heard, from my peers that, you can't treat your tenants like customers because they're not customers. And I vehemently disagree with that. And so even the terminology we use, we don't have tenants, we have residents, we have people that live in our buildings. And I am not a landlord. I am a property owner, and there's a difference, right? And the reason that we use language, words matter, and the reason that we do that is so that the folks that work with us, the residents, the investors, and whoever, they recognize that that we understand we have a substantial responsibility, and we treat the folks that we work with and serve with respect.
Instead of it sounding like a transactional moment, it sounds like it's a program, and it sounds like it's a respectful program that's a premier service that people want to participate in. And
That's
so
right.
if I'm a resident and you are the property owner, I'm coming at you now with a different respect than if I'm just a tenant and you're just my landlord. I love that.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah.
And it's clearly it's genuine as well. It's a system that works for you, but clearly it's genuine and it's baked into the culture of Clark Street, that's fantastic to hear. So you said, one of the things that I think really does scare people off from real estate investment is finding those properties. So how did you come about what made the first property you bought on Clark Street? How did you know that was right for you?
So I'm so glad you asked that question. So this is one of my favorite stories. So I spent, better part of a year looking at properties all across Connecticut, and mostly central Connecticut, which is where I live. And Amy Rio, who at that time had a teeny tiny brokerage, I think she probably had 3 or 4 agents and herself, and she was running around like a mad person with her husband Will, who's a general contractor. And so she was flipping houses back then. She was selling houses back then, and she was buying houses back then, right? And so in all of that, for whatever reason, she either saw something in me or took pity on me or a little bit of both. I'm not really sure. But she showed me 20, 25 properties. And I had always found a reason to say no. It needs a roof. I don't want to deal with that. Oh, it's blue. I want white buildings. Silly stuff, right? Just total excuses. And after I recovered and I started, back in earnest to find the property, we pulled into the lot at Clark Street, and we were walking through the property, and it was a 4-family that was the person that owned it prior was trying to flip it, and ran out of money and left the keys on the counter. And the bank had contacted Amy in some way. I'm not sure how. And she gave me an opportunity. And so we walked through it, and, it was in some cases it was really good. They had done a nice job and what they had touched, but it still needed a bit of work. And so I started with my excuses. Oh, it has stained glass. Oh, it's, in one of the stairwells. Oh, it needs a roof. It needs windows. It needs doors. And as I'm saying this, I see Amy reach into her briefcase, and she clicks the pen and pulls out a piece of paper and puts it on the hood of my truck and hands me. And as I'm talking, she's like, "Stop. Here's a pen. Sign this contract. I've showed you, 25 different places. If you don't sign this contract, this is a phenomenal deal. It's the best one I've ever showed you. If you don't sign this, I'm done." Actually, what she actually said was, "If you don't sign the effing contract," although she used the actual word, "I'm never talking to you ever again." And she handed me the pen, and my hand shook, and I signed it, and I signed the contract anyway. And I'm so glad I did, because I bought that place for $99,000. Clean and safe.
Wow.
We spent, just short of 25 grand to get it to the point where, we were okay with having people live in it. And then, spent the last, 10 years upgrading it. So now it has a new roof, and it has new windows, and it has new doors, and it's been painted, and, it's been loved, and it's very well cared for. And, now Amy, to her credit, runs one of the largest brokerages here in the state of Connecticut. So good on her too.
I want to highlight that for just a second, because what I just heard you say is that you love your customers enough, and you're not your customers, but your residents enough, that you want to give them your level of expectation. You said,
Yes.
when we up leveled the property to the point where we felt like our residents would feel at home here, suddenly
Right.
then it met your expectations. I think
Right.
that's huge. And I want to talk about that for just a second. Where did you get
Sure.
that from?
So I flipped, I've probably flipped, I don't know, 50, 60 properties. And, the way that we got good at it was we did the same thing everywhere, right? White shaker cabinets, light gray or white granite countertops, satin fixtures, satin lighting, nice, shiny, clean floors, typically hardwood or a luxury vinyl. And so when we started in with, just focusing on multifamily, we did the exact same thing. Everybody gets white shaker cabinets. Everybody gets the same fixtures, the satin nickel fixtures. Everybody gets the same granite countertops. I don't care what class building it's in, because I know that granite lasts forever. And so, and I intend on holding these properties for, I'm 53. So, at least the next 40 years, let my kids sell them. So, I know that those countertops are going to be fine. Right. And, unless somebody takes a hammer to it, but that's, in 13 years, that's never happened. So, when you walk into a Clark Street unit, apartment unit, whether you're in Weathersfield or Rocky Hill or Stafford Springs or, wherever, they all look the same, and they all look nice. And the other reason we do that is because it's a lot easier to maintain. If we use the same shaker cabinet, white shaker cabinets everywhere, if somebody happens to break a door, or, we have them sitting here in inventory. So it's a lot easier to fix. We don't have to figure out, okay, what the heck did we install there? It allows us to work a lot more efficiently, in terms of, again, serving our residents.
So that sounds like you have a system, and you follow the system at every property, and it generates the same kind of respect from the residents that live there. And it sounds like
Most of
it's
the
a
time.
duplicate. It sounds to me like that's something that you can count on. And I'm guessing you would recommend that to somebody that's thinking about real estate investing, as, create a system that is solid, rock solid, that is going to generate the same results over and over again for you.
Yeah. So I read years and years and years ago, I read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth. And, one of the things that it's it's similar to like Gino Wickman's book, Traction, in terms of, business systems and, being a techie and a former geek and consultant and all the things I used to do, that's kind of the way my head's wired anyway. And so, I think in terms of systems, for really two reasons. One is, it's a lot easier on me in terms of stress, right? I don't have stress really. I stress about payroll and making sure things are running along, but in terms of disorganization or disorganized operations, that's not really an issue for me. And so, my stress level is, pretty good. And but the other part of it is that it allows us to scale too, right? So we're able to accomplish more with fewer people because we have standardized on pretty much everything we do. And so the Gerber book, he wrote the E-Myth about what holds most entrepreneurs. And I don't care about the business. It's, you can run a donut shop, you can be a realtor, you can run a cleaning service, you can be a real estate investor. Without replicable business systems, it is, I would submit, nearly impossible to scale your business. And without throwing a whole bunch of human beings at it, and that gets expensive, and that basically slows you down anyway.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Working smart, not hard. That's a motto
Exactly.
that we live by, and streamline processes. I totally agree with that. I think if you are going to build an investing opportunity where you are buying multifamily homes, or you are going to do a lot of flips, then to keep the process as smooth and streamlined as you possibly can, using the same products that are going to stand the test of time, that aren't going to require a lot of maintenance from you. So yeah, that's really smart.
And we take it one step further. So just let me add to that. So I agree with everything you just said. The other part of it, though, is the value chain, right? And so, one of the things that I've learned along the way, I got this one from Tony Robbins, but the way he runs his business is using what's called a value chain. And basically what that is if I'm giving Aaron a task to complete for me, not only am I giving him, hey, I need, this website updated, right? But I also need this website updated within the next 2 weeks for this budget, right? And then Aaron is communicating back to me saying, okay, I understand you need this within 2 weeks, and I've got, a $1,000 budget. Do I have that right? Yes. Can you do that? Yes. Now we're on the same page, and Aaron goes and executes, and I get to go do the next thing that I have to go do. And so it's that next layer of confirmation. So there's no ambiguity. And I mean, there is, but it's rare that there's ambiguity in terms of time, budget, materials, whatever. Everybody knows exactly what to do, and we confirm with each other every single time, so that we don't make mistakes, or we try really hard not to.
Yeah, clear communication is so important in any kind of relationship, but especially when you've got a lot of moving parts, that everybody needs to be on the same page. Yeah, that's a fundamental.
Right. Yep, indeed.
So for somebody who's thinking about getting into real estate investing, what do you think is the very first step?
So I would either educate yourself. I did it through books and videos, and then eventually I, hired a mentor, a coach. But along the way, I asked a whole bunch of loaded questions to people who were smarter and more advanced than I am. And, so I think education and getting smart about it is step one, right? You need to understand how the business works. You also need to understand, and the reason I think a lot of people get kind of afraid or scared in jumping into this is that if you're supposed to be scared, it's a ton of responsibility. And if your hand doesn't shake when you sign that contract, you don't understand the magnitude of the decision you're making, right? And stop.
Yeah.
So I think that's big, right? In parallel, I would be networking my tail off, going to local meetups, going to local RIA meetings, meeting the local investor, the local investors, picking their brain, buying them a cup of coffee. I tell people all the time, I'm a cheap date. If you want to meet me for a cup of coffee, I will, and most times I'll even buy the coffee. I'll gladly sit down with you for half an hour or whatever, and either over Zoom or at a local coffee shop, and I'll answer any questions you have about flipping or wholesaling or multifamily or syndication or whatever. So you got to find someone who's going to throw an arm around you and actually care about whether or not you succeed. And the people that I see in this industry who come from that place of abundance where it's a big honking pie, right? And there are tons and tons and tons of slices. And if you get a deal that I probably would have wanted, I'm happy for you, because then I'm going to get the next one, and that's fine, right? I really get a lot of juice out of seeing people succeed. So, and I know a lot of people in this industry do as well.
One of the things that I just heard you say, though, and I love this, is that in the beginning, before you became the mentor, you found other mentors on your own. You took the initiative to read books, Michael Gerber, and go to Tony Robbins seminars, and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all the books that would get you from point A to point B. And I love the fact that you learned enough that you felt confident enough that you could turn around and share that with someone else. And I wonder how much of your success is pinned to the fact that you were willing to just go out, no matter what it takes, read the books, learn the stuff, and then put it into practice.
I think that a lot. I think that the books and videos and seminars and all the things that I did kind of gave me the confidence to get to that line that Amy Rio pushed me over, right? Because did I know everything? No. Do I know everything today? No. So, you get to the place where you know everything you possibly can. And then the rest of it you learn by doing, right? Mm-hmm. And doing kind of falls into two buckets. One is doing and it works, and you keep doing that. And then there's doing and it doesn't work, and you learn from that, right? Mistakes are part of this business. I'm okay with people that work with me and for me in, them making mistakes, as long as we understand that it's a lesson to be learned. Right. And, try really hard not to make the same mistake twice, but sometimes you do. But the fact is that, there's kind of the theoretical education, which is books and videos and all that. And then there's the practical, which is going head first and actually doing it.
So your first property was multifamily. Mm-hmm. Is that the bulk of your business? Do you do any single family flips?
I used to. Yeah. So when I bought Clark Street, it drained my bank account. And so in order to buy the next one, I had to flip a couple of houses. So the first 7 years of this operation was we bought Clark Street, we'd flip a couple houses, we'd make a little bit of money, we'd go buy another multi, we'd fix that up, we'd refi it, take that money back out, and go flip a couple more and do it again, and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And so that's how we built our portfolio to the point where it basically surpassed my salary, so that I didn't need the day job anymore.
Well, I love the fact that you took the education and then you added to it the strategy and the business systems of treating people with respect, and making the homes a certain level of expectation so that people would want to live there and that they would respect it enough that they would take care of it. I love that. Okay, so if you're just getting started in the business and this is going to be your model, reading the books, finding a mentor, and then finding a system or creating a system that then people want to, will attract the right kind of residents, and then they will live there. What is the next step after that?
So, honestly,
is there marketing involved, or does it just happen naturally, or what happens next?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. The business itself, there is complexity for sure. Right. But it's a very straightforward business, right? You acquire a property, you fix it up, you hand it off to somebody else, either they buy it or they rent it. And then you do it again. Right. I mean, so that part of it's pretty straightforward. It's not easy, but it's straightforward. The part where, you go to scale, our goal here is to get to, 1,000 units by the end of 2025, which is a pretty tall order. The way that we do that is by recognizing that, I go back to the old Ray Kroc story where, he was meeting with Harvard Business School students, and he asked, what business am I in? And Ray Kroc was the founder of the McDonald's franchise system. And, the smart guys and girls in the class, raised their hand. Well, you're obviously in the hamburger business, you're in the quick serve business, you're in the restaurant business. None of those answers were correct. Ray Kroc was in the real estate business, and the point, and in the marketing business, because the fact is, he asked the question, can you make a better burger than McDonald's? And you probably can, right? And yet they've sold billions of them. And the reason being is that they create a feeling. Every property is the same. The grass is cut to the exact same height. They use the same straws. They use the same napkins. They use, the experience is very similar no matter where you go in the world. And so, what that teaches me is that, and I one of my mentors, Charles Dobbins, had said, and it was something that we both agreed on from the day we met, which is that to be a real estate investor means you're in the marketing business, plain and simple, right? Because I am marketing to building owners who I'd love to buy their off-market, properties. I am marketing to brokers and agents who I would love for them to send me their pocket deals and and work with them on deals that are on the MLS. I market to wholesalers so that I get their attention and that they understand that if they send me a deal and I say I want to buy it, we close. I market to investors and help them understand the opportunity that we can provide in terms of returns and helping them diversify at least a little bit of their portfolio outside of that roller coaster of a stock market. And, frankly, I feel a moral compulsion to help people do that. So everything we do revolves around, kind of a 4-step framework, right? We create awareness, we create a relationship, and we become friends in some way, shape, or form. And then over the course of time, we serve those friends, and trust gets created between us and them. And then, at some point we're in the right to do business with each other. And in some cases we don't, we just stay friends, and that's good too. But the fact is that, none of that happens without, the upfront marketing and the continuous communications and transparency.
One of the things that I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this comes from a moral compass. You are a person of your word. You're a person that values relationships. You value the way people feel. You value the respect that, you have a respectful communication with your residents. They have a respectful communication back with you. It sounds to me like this goes far beyond just a marketing ploy and a real estate investment. This sounds to me like you've got a business with character behind it.
I think it's the only way to do it, right? I mean, the fact is that we're responsible for somebody's home, and that's a huge responsibility. We're also responsible for, somebody's nest egg or a retirement fund, and that's as large a responsibility. And so I don't know how to do that without being, straightforward and looking someone in the eye and telling them the truth. And, almost, sometimes it's bad news. Most of the time it's good news, but, no matter what, they need to get the straight story. And, and it goes beyond that too, because that's what I demand of our team as well. I need the news. I don't need your version of the news. I don't need sugarcoating. I need to know what's going on. Right. And, I don't think in the, 12, 13 years I've been doing this, I've ever raised my voice once. I'm a big guy, right? I'm 6'4", I block the sun big, right? So I can be imposing. But it doesn't really serve me because, the fact is that every building, every relationship, there's a curveball somewhere along the way. And, our mission here is to work that problem. Right. And so, if something isn't going right, if we're behind schedule, if we're off budget for some reason, let's put our heads together, because we, have that conversation every Friday. And, if there's an issue that needs to get resolved, we deal with construction and internal stuff on Friday. We deal with residents and outside stuff on Monday. And, the goal is to work the problem no matter what it is. We'll figure it out. I I always tell people that, and when I get on my Zoom calls on Fridays and Mondays, if I'm the smartest person on that call, we're all in big trouble, right? So there's a group of people here who are individually very good at what they do. They've bought into our culture and the way that we operate. And, from there, it just becomes, okay, this is going well. This is going well. We're going sideways here. All right, let's stop. Let's talk about that. All right, what's causing the problem? What do we think the potential remedies are? Okay, which one is the easiest one to accomplish to get this back on track? Let's do that. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. But
Yeah.
We work the problem. I've worked for plenty of managers who like to yell and intimidate, and it never worked with me. I don't know that it ever works with, the folks that work with me either. So
Angela has she says very often that when you're in a room of people, you, as you said, Ed, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And she takes that a step further and says, if you're in a room with 5 people, you're learning at the rate of 5. If you're on your own and you're on an island, it's just you. But if you've got 5 smart people, then you're all learning at that rate of 5, which I think can hold very true in real estate. There's so many different players in a real estate transaction. And if you come at it from the way you do it, Ed, from a place of contribution and respect and integrity, then I think you're gonna achieve success.
Yeah,
Well,
and not.
Go ahead.
I'll not say that I've always been that guy, right? When I was a manager for the first time, a long time ago, I was a nightmare to work for, right? I was positive I was this guy. And, and I learned from that in that, the folks that worked for me taught me that doesn't work, right? I mean, we, as a first-time manager, I failed because I really thought I was smart. And the fact is that a team is always smarter than one human being. You're putting 100 IQ points in a bucket, or you're putting 800 IQ points in that conference room. Which one do you think is more likely to figure out how to move forward? I would submit it's the folks who are rocking the 800 IQ.
That's
Well,
great.
you brought something up where you said, and you sneaked it in. You said you have a Friday meeting and a Monday meeting, and that really made my ears peak up. And I was like, hey, wait a second, I heard about meetings. And that sounds like it was standard across the board, because that rolled off your mouth like that happens every week. At what point of your career did you decide that in order to keep the system that you have created flowing smoothly, you needed to have those 2 accountability sessions each week?
So pretty early on, I mean, because we're all remote, right? I mean, most of the folks that work for me live 8,000 miles away, right? And I mean, literally, they're in the Philippines. And so, and the ones that work for us here in the States aren't coming to my office. They're out on project sites and running around and doing what they need to do. And so, coming together for that, we block an hour, but we never use the hour. I actually abhor meetings. I would much rather be, doing something productive. But the way that we approach the meeting is kind of twofold. One is, problem solving, right? How can I serve our team whatever we're struggling with? And sometimes it's coming up with the answer, and sometimes it's rallying the troops to come up with the answer, and it's usually the latter, not the former. And then on the other side, it's just to maintain the communication, the transparency, the cohesiveness of the team, so that everybody knows everybody understands from where we're operating, everybody understands what needs to get done. It's worked really well for us. I mean, we've grown very quickly, mainly because we got on the same page really early on. And, I learned that just from my days, working for the tech companies, is that, I worked for some really amazing CEOs, and they were, to a person, they were all really good at managing diverse, disparate teams spread everywhere. Right. And, it was something that I was always fascinated by. How do you sit in San Francisco and get a person in Florida to deal with a person in India and have that interaction be effective and productive? Right. That's art. That's not science. And part of it is, a huge part of it is, it's mutual respect. Right. But the other part of it is a very clear channel of conversations, around where we are and where we're trying to get, and who has to do what with whom to get there. And so the only way I know how to do that is to talk.
Well, and I think when you build a team that you're going to then end up building an empire with, there has to be a way you deliver bad news. What happens when things in your company are not going swimmingly and you have to deliver bad news? How do you guys deal with that?
Happens every week. Every single property we buy, because we buy dilapidated properties, right? We don't buy, brand spanking new glass towers. We buy, grungy, dingy 10 unit apartments that haven't been updated since the 80s. And, there's only so much you're going to discover in an inspection and due diligence process. But, in the back of your head, there's a reason why the seller is selling that property, right? And so sometimes you find it, and most of the time you don't. And so, we fully expect every single property to throw us a curveball, and it's fine. It's part of the plan, right? I mean, we have contingencies, we have reserves, and it's part of what we do and why we do it the way we do it, right? And so the whole idea here is to shine a light on those issues as early on as possible, because when we discover them, a week or two into the ownership of a new property, it's a lot easier to fix it than allowing, say, a water leak, for instance, that really didn't seem like that big a deal a year ago, is now creating mold in places that we have to go remove walls and go fix. Right. It's so much easier just to deal with it when you find it. And so we encourage our team. My construction guys know I give them kind of parameters around it. If, yes, the budget is hard and fast, but, I give them flexibility to say, look, if you find something and it's less than, depending on the project, $500 to fix it, just fix it and tell me on Friday. It's fine. Right. And, if it's more than that, then, pick up the phone, give me a call, and I'll come out and see what's going on. Or you can take a picture of it or video of it and show me, and we'll, sit and strategize and figure out, okay, how do we handle this? And that seems to work really well.
It sounds like that respectful communication is not just with the end finished product, but also with the team that you're working with, and that you've empowered them to make the decisions and say, hey, wait a second, we have an issue here. I've been empowered by Ed. He gave me permission to go ahead and fix it. Oh, wait a second. Ed needs to be in on this one. I mean, I love the fact that you have given them the reins to actually take over and run your company for you, until your catch-up meeting on Monday or Friday.
It was interesting. When I first started out and went full time, a lot of my friends were like, "Hey, we want to invest. We're on bigger pockets too. We want to, we want a piece of this opportunity." And I told them, I was like, "Look, it's right now it's not a business; it's a side hustle. When I take a day off, everything stops, and that's not a business; that's a side hustle. So let me build a business first, and then I'll come back to you." And you don't really have that business until it can operate without you. And, I really enjoy hanging out with my wife and my daughters, and I like to think they like hanging out with me. And, so, getting on a plane and going somewhere and hanging out for a week, without a business, without systems, is really hard, because, sure, Patricia and the girls have a great time, but I'm, up in the hotel working on vacation, and that is not what we're going for here. So, I am always looking for ways to take me out of the process and help, allow me to work on the business instead of in the business. Recently I had I had an appendectomy about 8 weeks ago. And so I was down for, I don't recommend it. It's nowhere near as much fun as they tell you. I was down and out for, better part of 5 or 7 days. Right. And
Are you okay now?
I'm 100% fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a really cool scar, but other than that, I'm fine. That I'll get to show off on the beach. But the fact is that, my wife literally took my phone away from me. And because she knows I'm negotiating contracts, right? And I'm returning phone calls and all that. And, I fell asleep. Next thing I know, the phone's gone. And she's like, yeah, you're not getting that back. And, I was on a gurney. So, she knew there was nothing I could do. I was at her mercy and she didn't show me any, at least in that respect. And so, when I got back to the office, a week later, residents' phone calls were returned. Rents were paid on time. Contractors were paid on time. Marketing materials went out. Social media got posted. Podcasts got posted, and I went, okay, they don't need me anymore. This is a good thing. That's awesome. Right.
And I think it's not that they didn't need you, but I think because you've empowered them and because you've taught them and you've trained them and you have the systems in place and you have the weekly accountability meetings, it sounds like you empowered them to run the business in spite of the fact that you are the master of all of the different things that you mentioned, but that when you were able to step back, they filled your shoes and they covered for you because you gave them the tools to do that.
Exactly right. Yep.
So you mentioned that a lot of your team is in the Philippines. Is that your marketing team? Do you outsource that?
Yeah. So we have, our social media, our web, our search engine optimization, property management, asset management, bookkeeping, acquisitions and transaction coordination, all of it's in the Philippines. And here's the thing: you can hire a college educated, really smart, really motivated person for, honestly, it's a lot less than that same person coming out of a local university, for a fraction of the cost. Their cost of living is basically, a $5 an hour rate, which we pay more, but a $5 hour rate in the Philippines is the equivalent of $125,000 here in the U.S. Like from a cost of living perspective. So, basically we pay more than that, and then we pay bonuses on top of it. Mainly because I want our folks, they're working our hours and they're exactly 12 hours on the other side of the world. So they're working their nights for us. And, so we pay them accordingly. But even so, I get, hardworking, honest, diligent, passionate, really well-educated, really smart people. It allows us to move. I'm a huge fan of Dan Sullivan's book, Who Not How, right? And, as we grow, as we take on new things, like, we're contemplating a coaching program and other things. And, I'm able to, because our team is so strong, I'm able to call, my right hand, Janice, and who I think you folks met, and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about this? Right. And like, we were contemplating a business, and I challenged her 2 weeks ago, how would you do this? Right. And I said, think about it, come back to me when you're ready, and let's talk. And what I got 5 days later was a detailed business plan on exactly how to execute this. And I read it and went, holy cow, that's perfect. A couple of changes here and there, but I mean, she nailed it. And so now she's in charge, right? Now she gets to run that business if we end up pushing forward with it. I have every confidence in the world that she's capable of it. And, I met that lady 4 years ago. And, she was very good at certain things, and I challenged her to do things that she had never done before, and she was great at those too. And, the next challenge then becomes the human factor of, okay, well, if you're good at this and you're good at this, what about this? And then what about this? And pretty soon she came back to me and said, look, I'm happy to do all this, but you're stressing me out. I said, okay, well, which part do you enjoy doing and which part stresses you out? And she gave me a block of, here's the stuff that stresses me out. Great. That's a new job. We're going to call that job property manager. And I'm going to ask you to go find those people and bring me, 3 candidates, and we'll hire one of them. And she brought me 3 candidates. They were all absolute rock stars. I hired one of them, and Christy's been here for 2.5 years now. And, she's outstanding. When we needed to upgrade the website, when it was time for me to stop doing that work, because I wasn't actually getting it done. I was saying I was going to get it done and never got to it. Janice found me 3 amazing guys or people. And I like 2 of them so much that I hired 2 of them. One's our social media manager and one is our web and SEO manager. And, rinse and repeat. We just keep growing when so part of what we do, and I took this from Janice, was, every quarter we look at our jobs and say, okay, well, what's stressing us out? And, we do one of a handful of things when those conversations come up. If it's stressing us out, we either delegate it to an outside company, we hire somebody to take care of it, or we just stop doing it. And so that is, or we automate it. That's the other piece. And so, that's the piece that we're always looking at, because, the fact is that life's stressful enough. I don't need everybody to work 100 hours a week to make this business work. I certainly won't do it. I've done that, and it's not, it's hard. So, I have a lot of respect for people that do that, but I'm not going to do that anymore. And I'm not going to ask anybody that works for me to do that anymore.
Well,
Now,
it's
in the
pretty
beginning-
clear. Sorry, Angela. I was just going to say, it's pretty clear that the tenets of your business run throughout. Not be the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself with smart, talented people, and have respect for those people, and then they respect you, and to do everything with the best intentions to try and do the right thing, and to have good systems in place.
Right. That's it. That is our
Angela?
business plan right there.
Angela, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's my turn now. Yay.
Your turn.
Okay, so I had a question. I know that early in the beginning, Ed had some hesitancy. And I think this speaks to every business owner, where you want to make a property purchase and yet you're not quite sure, and you're kind of hanging on, and you keep looking and looking, and you're waiting to find that right moment where you're like, yes, that's the property. And I know that in Ed's case, Amy kind of, pulled the trigger on that. And she said, you're gonna buy this one.
Right.
How do you, because that was one incident, how do you determine on the next properties that you purchased? How do you determine what was different on the other properties where you're like, okay, I'm ready to jump in and make a purchase now?
Yeah. So I'm at least.
Or did you just take Amy with you and she just keeps giving you the pen?
She's too darn busy for me. I can barely, I only see her like once or twice a year. She barely returns my phone calls now. She's so busy. She's kind of a big deal now.
Okay.
And but she remembers the little people, so I'm grateful for that. As far as the process, the first one was literally Amy pushing me to do it. Right. I had no intention of buying that property, and I'm so glad I did. Now it's, I liken it to the Matrix, right? And I explain to people that, the only building I get emotional about is my home, and that's it. End of list. Everything else is the Matrix. And what I mean by that is when I'm looking at a property, I don't see wood and nails and shingles and, and other, gutters and siding, right? I see spreadsheets. And so for me, it's a big math problem. And if I'm able to figure out how to buy the property, fix the property, and get it to cash flow, I worry a lot less about appreciation because we can force appreciation. But as long as I know that a building is going to cash flow, healthy cash flow, and we can get it to that point in a very short period of time, typically less than 6 months, we're going to buy that building. And, then we put in, I don't believe in, we negotiate every deal, but when we go in with an offer, we go in day one with our best and final. I'm not looking to eke out another, $500 here, $1,000 there. I want the property because the only way we grow as a business is by acquisitions. And so, we go in, and we're pretty transparent about it. We give them 2 offers. One is, here's us buying it outright, and here's us buying it if you want to hold some or all of the paper. And happy to talk about terms and discuss those, but top line dollars, that's what we're going to spend, and it's a yes or no, and that's okay. So we underwrite a lot of properties, and we offer on a lot of properties, and in some cases, I wrote one yesterday. They're asking 2.6, and we offered 1.4. Because that's where cash flows, where it is right now. And the broker that called me back, he goes, "Are you sure this is the number?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure. Here's my math. I'll give you my spreadsheet. Here's how I figured it out." And he called me back a little later and was like, "Okay, I see what you're doing, but it's going to go for a lot more than that." Okay, so be it.
And so do you hold really fast to your numbers? I mean, it sounds like you have a
Yes.
very tight system in place and you know exactly
Yes.
what you're going to offer and you're not playing any games.
Not playing games. We have a very tight buy box. We know exactly what we're looking for. There are 1,208 buildings in the state of Connecticut that I want to buy someday. And we know pretty much who owns them, how long they've owned them, what they owe on them, because, CoStar and whatever else. And it's just a matter of, being in the right spot. And so we use marketing to be in the right spot. And, eventually someone will raise their hand and say, "Okay, I'm ready." And whether that's coming to us from a wholesaler or a broker agent or, through our own efforts, that's fine. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've met a seller at a closing, or, as we're getting into the inspection process, and I hand them my card, and they'll recognize our logo and go, "You're the guy that's been sending me letters for the last 3 years." I'm like, yeah, that's me. So, and you probably could have saved 5% had you just picked up the phone and called me instead of hiring a broker, but that's a different story. But the fact is that, it's, again, we're in the marketing business. So we're constantly talking to the market, and, in a lot of ways, right? We're trying to educate. We're trying to help them understand the value system from which we operate. And we're, hardcore trying to create awareness. Hey, we're out here. We're taking the old wooden spoon to the steel frying pan and walking through the neighborhood, making sure everybody knows we're here.
Well, it's really impressive, the business model that you've created. And it's clear to see why you're such a success, and love seeing you making an impact in the world of real estate that I know I'm passionate about, Aaron. I'm sure you are, and Angela. So, we look forward to seeing you continue to do great things, and we really appreciate you coming and sharing all of that with us today.
It's really my pleasure.
So if anybody has any real estate questions, they want to get a hold of you, I believe you've got a podcast that you share some of this knowledge on. Tell us a little about that.
So Real Estate Underground. Yeah, Real Estate Underground. The website's reupod.com. It's our focus is on education, right? So I interview experts from all over the country that I've met, in my travels, and folks that I've stalked on social media and finally got them to return my call. And so, the idea being that, my job is to kind of serve the guest in terms of helping them shine a light on, what they're doing. And then our job as a team, me and the guest, is to drop as many gold nuggets along the way in the half an hour or so that we're talking, so that, whether the listener is a grizzled veteran investor, or someone, who I affectionately refer to as the dreamers. They're the folks that stop you at the grocery store and be like, hey, I saw you online, man. I wish I had enough time to do what you do for a living. And, my honest question is always, well, what's stopping you, right? Let's go get a cup of coffee. I'll help you if you want to get going,
That's
right?
great.
No. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. But, that's the idea.
I'm so looking forward to tuning into your podcast. So
Thank you.
we'll wrap it up here. Aaron, if you'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on, you can find me at Ask Aaron Brown pretty much on any social media platform. And Ed, we so appreciate you today. That was so
My
fun.
pleasure.
Sounds like you have such a wonderful business and a great business model. And love that you're really into the E-Myth, and you sound like a phenomenal leader. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And Angela, where can everybody find you?
I'm Ask Angela Brown on all the social medias as well. And thank you so much, Ed, for joining us today, because I learned so much from you. And if I can take one thing away from today, it's going to be that having your systems in place and then empowering the people that you hired to do the jobs you hired them to do is the way to success to build your empire.
It absolutely
And
is.
I'm Brooke Bryant, and you can find me on all the social medias at Ask Brooke Bryant. And Ed, I think my big takeaway was to always surround yourself with people who are talented, smart, passionate, and want to help you do better. So we really thank you so much for sharing all of this great information with
My
us
pleasure.
today.
It was great to
All
see
right,
you all. Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you, Ed.
We'll see everybody next week.